Okay, I didn't want to make this video, but I've been tagged in a lot of videos and I have been sent a lot of messages regarding the Insurrection Act. And it's one of those things where it seemed far-fetched and I didn't want to normalize it because, it makes it easier then for people to invoke. In other words, the more people normalize something, and they say, well, they're expecting it anyway, why not? But there are enough people talking about it that, here goes. So first, I want to distinguish the Insurrection Act from martial law. The two are not the same. Martial law essentially restricts fundamental rights for everyone across the United States. The Insurrection Act would allow military to be used on domestic soil to carry out some, specific purpose designated by the president. So why is the Insurrection Act even being discussed? Well, in one of President Trump's executive orders when he first took office, he essentially gave the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security 90 days to come up with a joint memo determining whether or not the Insurrection Act should be invoked in order to deal with the crisis at the southern border. And so 90 days from January 20th is April 20th. And that's why everyone thinks on April 20th he might invoke the Insurrection Act. So what does the Insurrection Act do? Like I said, it allows the president to deploy military forces on domestic soil under very specific circumstances, such as suppressing disorder or insurrection. Now, the last time it was invoked was during the Los Angeles riots in the 90s. Now, reports indicate that the Trump administration is considering using the military to assist in large-scale deportations of, undocumented individuals. This, is to allow the military's involvement in domestic law enforcement, and particularly in sanctuary cities or in areas with high immigrant populations and along the southern border. Of course, the legal experts opposed to the Insurrection Act are concerned about the application of it and the fact that it gives a lot of power to the executive branch with minimal oversight. They've already been exerting lots of power with minimal oversight, despite the courts trying to, reel them in. This would give them even more power to carry out something that, is probably not necessary. However, it will play in to the administration's optics and certainly get a lot of media coverage. The reality is I don't believe that we have the housing, the detention centers, the immigration court infrastructure to facilitate these mass removals. Nonetheless, the April 20th deadline is certainly concerning. We'll obviously keep tabs to see what is happening, and if there is an announcement made, I again foresee legal challenges in the courts almost immediately.